everyone, it is time for the July front deck garden tour, and July is usually one of my favorite months in the garden. It is also the hottest, which I don't love, but July is usually the time when my plants are still looking really great. They're starting to produce a ton, but it's before the pests and the disease start to take over my garden. So it's not really as much of a struggle, I feel like, keeping my garden looking happy and healthy in July as it is later on in the season. But this year, for me here in Chicago, has been a very interesting year. I feel like every year is a little bit different. This year, everything is blooming much earlier than it normally does. I got zinnias earlier, I have a sunflower blooming, which I normally don't have. Everything just seems to be much more productive earlier, which makes me really excited because we're zone 6A. We have, like, I'd say maybe a medium length growing season. It's not super long. So the earlier I can start to get my flowers and my vegetables, the happier I am. So as a quick recap, this is my front deck. It faces the west. It's 18 by 19 square feet, and every single thing I grow is in containers because we are 3 stories up. So this video will take you around my front deck, and then the next video will take you around my back deck. So let me show you how everything is looking in July. Here's a sweep of my front garden. I'm standing where I would come out into the garden, which I do every morning, and this is what I see, which makes me so happy. So starting off here in my center raised bed. Well, actually, let's start with what's below it because I'm really enjoying these roses. These are the Oh So Easy in Fuego roses. They're from Proven Winners, and I am in love with them. They've already been blooming like crazy, and the flowers on them, there's a few different patterns on the blooms. Some have more of the light pink with the hot pink. Some are more just hot pink. And I have harvested so many of these already to bring inside for bouquets. I love roses. I'm still figuring out how to overwinter them without killing them. So these I just got and planted this year. I think my plan will be to keep them out in the garage and not move them outside too early in the spring, which was my mistake this year. In my center raised bed, which is from Grownomics, and it is the widest of the 6 raised beds that I have in my garden. So in terms of like length and width, it's the largest area. And ever since I've gotten this, which it's now been 3 or 4 years, I think it's been 3 years in my garden. No, maybe 4. I'll have to go back and check. But I've always put in each corner a Super Petunia Vista bubblegum. I love super petunias. Now, the one issue I have with any petunias or geraniums in my garden are the budworms. So I have decreased the amount of plants in my garden that budworms like, but I love super petunias so much that I'm willing to go to battle with them every year. Because one budworm, or a couple budworms, can really wipe out almost every flower you see here. So I'm keeping an eye on it so I can stay on top of it. But I have one of these in each corner, and these get huge. So these will get into my herbs, so I do stay on top of pruning there. They will completely cover the raised bed, come down to here. I do trim them back maybe by about a half, probably in like August when it seems like they're starting to get a little bit leggy, and they flush right back. So I absolutely love these petunias. In the center here, I have a tricolor sweet potato vine. So this has a hint of pink on it, which is my favorite color, so I love it so much. It does grow, I would say, like fairly aggressively. Like, it will start to pick up, it will mound, but not nearly as aggressively as a super petunia. So I'm going to keep an eye and see if I need to like prune the super petunias to let the sweet potato vine grow down, but this should start to trail as well. And then in my center of the bed, I have all queen lime varieties of zinnias. I've also grown zinnias in this bed ever since I've had it. I started with Benary. Those are way too tall to be in an elevated bed, but I do still have some in my garden. Last year I think I did Cinderella, but I love the queen lime series. So I have 4 different varieties. I'm not sure if all of them are blooming right now, but let me show you the ones that are. So this one here, all 3 of these are the queen lime with orange. And I am absolutely in love. They have the red centers, the orange petals with the bit of that lime green yellow surrounding them. And I have harvested already a ton of zinnias from this bed. They usually do start blooming in June, but not quite as early as they did this year, and it has made me really happy. Let's see if I can find, well, if we come around here, I have a queen lime with red. Here are my queen lime with red, and for some reason you're going to see a lot of flies today. That seems to be the pollinator that is in my garden right now, and I mean they're doing their thing, but this is the queen lime with red. I think this might be my favorite of the queen lime just because, I don't know, the color of red seems almost like vintagey. I don't know how to describe that, but that's what it feels like to me. But I love, again, we got the lime green, a little hint of yellow, and then that very light red on the petals. So this one I think also is very stunning. The other two I have in here are queen lime with blush and queen lemon peach. And there is a queen lime with blush blooming right now. So this one, the petals around here are more of like that yellowy lime green color. There's a little hint of blush in the middle, and the center here is also a really pretty blush color. So I love this one as well. I don't think any of the lemon peach are blooming right now. Yeah, because this is one of the lemon peach plants. But they are a little bit more yellow than this. I'll see if I have a photo and I'll put it in here just so you can see what it looks like to compare. But I love them so much. Let's come around the corner. We will do my flower cart in just a little bit, but let's head over here to the herb rack. This is my herb garden and I absolutely love how it looks. So I'm growing the most herbs I ever have this year. There are 17 completely different varieties of herbs here right now. And this was after telling myself last year I was going to grow fewer herbs. So I just didn't follow that advice at all. I never do. Don't know why I keep telling myself that, but I do also have herbs in some of the other beds that I'll point out. But this is what I consider my herb garden. Again, there's 17 here. 8 of them, I think, are different flavored mints. So let me take you up and show you what I'm growing. I do feel like even though I'm growing more herbs, I really have figured out the herbs that I like the most, that are worth taking up the space in my garden since I do have limited space. So I'm very happy with all of the herbs that I've selected this year. First up, we have lemon thyme, which I absolutely love. I think I actually use it more in cooking than just regular thyme, but I love regular thyme as well. We have garlic chives. I absolutely love garlic. These taste delicious. I've eaten a few of them raw. Basil mint, leeks. This is just my standard thyme. Down here I have my strawberry mint. Are you the orange mint? Yeah, you have exploded in growth. That is my orange mint. Should probably harvest some of that soon. My apple mint, which I cut back after it had some powdery mildew. I cut it all the way back. And it has flushed back incredibly without any hint of powdery mildew. So keeping my fingers crossed. Down at the bottom there we have rosemary. Then we have the lemon bergamot mint. We have oregano, lemon balm, pineapple sage. Coming around here we have the chocolate mint up front and a parsley plant in the back. And then in the front row here we have the banana mint and we have the pineapple mint. I would say the banana mint has taken the slowest to grow of all the varieties that I have this year, but it is now starting to flush out. And I do love the pineapple mint because of that very, very light yellow variegation on the leaves. So far, I haven't harvested a ton because they're just now kind of getting to the size where I want to start harvesting, but I am so excited to harvest these, dry these, try them, and make some tea. And I will take you along with me when I do all of those tasks. To the right of where I come out onto the garden is my flower cart. This is one of the last things that I planted up in the garden, and last year I filled it with a bunch of colorful flowers, but I wanted to make it a bit more relaxing this year, so that's why I decided to go with all white flowers or plants with silvery foliage. This is also where I have extra pots and my garbage can, and this little bucket, this is what I use because I have a tumbler composter out back, but I will put in the garden waste here and then carry it through the house and dump it into the tumbler. I'm debating whether or not I want to add another tumbler up here, so I don't have to do that, but that is a decision for a later date. Let me take you up close now and show you everything that I planted. So first up is my snow white Gomphrena. I have the most varieties of Gomphrena ever this year as well, and this is my first time growing the snow white, and I absolutely love it. I didn't used to love white flowers, so I didn't grow a ton, and now I have a fondness for them. There's also a strawberry plant down here, which has already produced a few strawberries. Over here, we have the Campfire Marshmallow Bidens and a Silver Falls Dichondra. Now, I don't think The Silver Falls was that long at all when I planted it, and it's only been a few weeks, so it definitely grows fast. I'm debating whether or not I want to trim it, but I also like the idea of like swirling it around the pot and just kind of having it trail along the deck. So we'll see what I decide to do with that. I also have the same combination of plants here in this flower box, so Silver Falls dichondra, Bidens, and just repeating back and forth. This is also where I store my watering cans. And, well, let's go down here first. On the lower shelf on the left, we have a berry box Paracomeles. This is a perennial, but it's not hardy down to the zone here in Chicago 6A. So this will be overwintered in the garage, and then it will need a larger pot at some point. And then over here in this flower box, I have 3 of the Angel Wings sea cabbage. I'm also trying one indoors as a houseplant this year. Coming over here is a plant I have fallen in love with. I mean, I love all of them, but this is one that I think I'm gonna have to make sure I have every year. But this is the Coconut Appeal Black-Eyed Susan vine. And actually, let me back up first, because I love how this plant both trails over the pot and is also climbing up the trellis. If we compare that to the Morning Glory, well, also in this pot I have the Autumn Blaze Celosia from Floret, but I also have the Morning Glory, which I have grown, this I think will be the 3rd year, growing it up my flower cart, but it doesn't have the same density as this does. So I am really loving, I don't think I'm going to give up my Morning Glory, but I think I'm also going to have to incorporate the Black-Eyed Susan vine, and I love the little white and black flowers. It has also just started to latch onto the cage, so we'll see how these two do together. Heading over to this side of my garden now, so there are trees out front which give us a little bit of shade in the later evening, but we still do have full sun up here. So down here I have 3 of the Floret zinnias that I got from a friend in a seed swap. I have forgotten which variety this is, so I'll have to ask her, but these I direct sowed just a few weeks ago, so they're still relatively small. And in the pot behind them, which I think is the same size pot, I have 2 of the Summer Sunrich Provence sunflowers. So I always grow sunflowers in the lowest raised bed, which is on the other wall that I'll show you in just a second. These were 2 volunteer sunflowers in that bed from last year's, and I didn't want to get rid of them, so I transplanted them over to this pot, which sunflowers don't love to be transplanted, so these did wilt a little bit, but then they very quickly bounced right back. And this is another one where this is so early, I normally do not have a sunflower blooming this early, and of course right now it's not looking at the camera. But I'm so in love. And this is a single stem sunflower, but when that top flower is done blooming, I cut it off. There are tiny flowers that open up right next to the leaves, and it's really pretty. There is also a black hollyhock. I don't know the exact variety because, again, it was from a seed swap actually last year. I don't think this is going to bloom this year. I think it'll be next year, but I wanted to plant it and see what happens. So I hope this survives winter. We'll see how it does. That's what's in the center of this pot down there. This is my perennial bed, and this is one of the 2 new raised beds in my garden this year from Epic Gardening. This is the deepest bed, so that's why I decided it would probably be a good fit to use with my perennials. I've never been big on perennials because they don't always survive the winter when they have to stay outside here in Chicago, so I don't want to have that many that are either going to maybe die, I don't know if they're going to come back, or if I have a lot of potted perennials, I don't want to have to move a bunch of pots down for the winter. I probably already have more than I should, but I'm hoping these will all survive, and some of them have. Some of them are from last year. Now, I didn't save the tags from last year, unfortunately, but the ones that overwintered in my center raised bed last year that I transplanted to this bed this spring, I have Echinacea here, Echinacea there. I think this is a Black-Eyed Susan, one there in the corner, and then I did have prairie onions that I also transplanted because my perennials were in a few different beds last year before I decided that I wanted to move them all to this bed. So I did get some native seeds as well, which is where the prairie onions are native seeds that I got from Prairie Moon Nursery. And then we have this plant. So it looks like just common milkweed, but I don't think I got common milkweed seeds. So I'm thinking this might be butterfly weed, but the leaves look a little bit different. So let me come in close, and if you know what this might be, for sure, let me know. Then I added 3 early release perennials from Proven Winners that will be out next year. So the first one here is Touch of Blush Heliopsis helianthoides. I love it. I love the variegation on the leaves. I love the flowers. This plant makes me very happy. And let me see what the zone is on here. So it is hardy to zones 4 through 9. So fingers crossed in 6A, it does just fine. One of the other new releases here is Designer Threads Golden Needles. This is a Coreopsis verticulata. And this is, let's see what zone. Zone 5 through 9. So again, we're getting a little close here to 6A, because in containers you really want to go 2 zones lower. So 2 zones below 6A would be 4A. But this is a raised bed, so it's a little bit larger. So I'm hoping that these do well, but we'll find out next year. And then the last one here, which I'm in love with, is Totally Stoked Riptide. Trying to get that to focus. There we go. Totally Stoked Riptide, Stokesia laevis. And the zone on this is also 5 through 9. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for this one as well. But these flowers are kind of on their way out. And then these are just starting to open up. And I am in love with the color and the flower themselves. Down here I have a container of strawberries. These I leave out here over winter and they come back each year. I have my raspberry bush, which I've had now for 3 years, I think. Maybe 4, but one of them is a propagation of the other one. I just can't remember which one now. But I also have raspberries earlier than normal. I've already eaten a couple. These are everbearing raspberries. Now I do love raspberries. They're one of my favorite fruits, but if I were to go back in time, I would do 2 things differently. One, I would get a thornless type, because these do tend to get in the way and they can be pretty prickly. So that is why I now have them on wheels, so that I can easily move them around when I want them out of my way in the garden. And I would also probably do a dwarf variety. These are standard and they're just growing in, I think it's a 20-inch or 18-inch diameter pot. And I probably would go a little bit smaller in the actual plant size as well. But I love them. I love being able to harvest the raspberries. The wasps also seem to love them as well. So behind the raspberry bush is my Gomphrena bed. This again has been my Gomphrena bed for the last 3 or 4 years. But this has turned out a bit interesting. So I think you can tell that the majority of the Gomphrena in this bed is all the same color. I think the color here is QIS Rose Gomphrena. It's the first time growing this Gomphrena variety, so I'm not 100% sure, but from what I bought, I'm assuming that this color, which is the majority of this bed, is QIS Rose. Now, I also bought QIS Salmon, and I did not start this many rose plants, but I have 0 salmon-colored Gomphrena, so I don't know. I think I got them from the same place. I have to double check. But I don't know if it's an instance of I got a pack that was mislabeled, or maybe they're from like 2 different retailers and what they call rose and what they call salmon is the same. But I would find it very odd to call this color salmon. But either way, I have ended up with 0 salmon colored Gomphrena and a bunch of this color. Now, something that's actually a different variety but looks very similar. This one here on the left is actually Lavender Lady Gomphrena. In fact, these 2 here. So that's Lavender Lady, this is QIS Rose. I do feel like they're very similar, but I can more easily tell those apart. And then there's another interesting thing that has happened with my Gomphrena. Do you see this color here? Which isn't a pure white, like the Snow White Gomphrena, but it's more of like a very, very light, dusty purple. I also didn't get any of that color. So then part of me was like, maybe this is what I ordered as salmon, but it came like this. However, like I know there are specific spots where I planted salmon and it ended up this color. So I don't know what's going on. Luckily, I love all Gomphrena varieties, but I know there was like an orange Gomphrena and carmine Gomphrena. They're kind of buried. There's a carmine, there's orange back there. We're just getting a lot of this rose Gomphrena this year, which again, luckily, I love it. So that's what's happening in my Gomphrena bed. Now let's head over here to my veggie patch. So this section has just over the years become my veggie patch with also some zinnias because I need more space for zinnias all the time. Everything here is grown in grow bags. You can't really see them, there are lifts under these, wheels under these to keep them up off of the deck. So let's come over to the first one. Well, actually, let me say one thing. So what I've realized over the years is I was growing as many vegetables as I could that I thought were fun to grow, like eggplant and okra. And then I realized I don't love eggplant or okra. So similar to my herbs, I'm still growing the same amount of vegetable plants, but now it's more of the varieties or the types that I actually eat. So I do have here a zucchini plant. It's a zucchini round. Let me see if I can show you. You can see the fruit in there is, well, round, and I think it's going to get like 8 inches in diameter, the seed packet says, so I haven't harvested any zucchini yet. I also started some more zucchini seeds because I only have one zucchini plant, and a lot of times there will be some sort of pest or disease that gets to it, so I figured I would start some, and also if this one just kind of tires out after a while, then I can replace it with a smaller one. And you can see me planting these in the latest Epic Gardening video about what to plant in July. So that's what I have there is my round zucchini. Let's stick to the front row and then I'll go to the back row. These 3 are all pepper plants. They're from Burpee. One is a red pepper, one is yellow, one is orange. I don't know if I saved the tags. Well, let's see to remember which one is which. So it looks like this one is the Sweet Canyon Red. Do we have a tag? We do. Oh, I'm so proud when I'm responsible. This is the Sweet Canyon Orange, and there are some peppers on here. So peppers will start green. You can harvest them if you want to when they're green. I will wait till the color changes, but you can also check a pepper, and generally I'll harvest, again, once it turns orange. But if I wanted to harvest this now, it is already firm, so I could go ahead and do that. But I'm going to let that turn its orange color, which means this one must be that Sweet Canyon Yellow. At the end here in the last 7-gallon grow bag in this front row is my cucumber plant. Now it is a little bit bare because it has had powdery mildew. I just in the last few days saw it. I removed all of the leaves that had powdery mildew on them. I threw them away. Do not save any leaves or compost them that have powdery mildew. Get rid of them as fast as possible. Clean your pruners immediately afterwards. So I removed those. There are some small spots left on some leaves, so I sprayed those with the fungicide, and I'm hoping that this plant survives and continues to produce. I've already harvested 2 cucumbers, and there is a 3rd cucumber growing on it right now. So I'm hoping I get a lot more. Maybe I'll start some more seeds from those as well. I don't know, we'll kind of see how this one does and what happens to it. Although maybe I'll replace it with one of the zucchini. In the row behind it are my 3 30-gallon grow bags. These have moved with me. I've had them since 2019. They are still growing strong, and this is where I have my tomatoes. So you just recently saw me prune. I went over the different tomatoes and issues I've had over the season so far, but in this first 30-gallon grow bag, I have in here one of the cherry tomato plants. So this is Super Sweet 100. I did get this from Gethsemane, so I got it as a plant. Then in front of the tomato plant, on the left, I have a nasturtium, which I think I need to thin. I sowed those seeds directly, and it looks like there's a couple growing in there. Then I have what was called a boxwood, I think it was, basil, and I actually started this indoors in February for the TV appearance that I had in March. So this has been growing for a while, but it doesn't get too big. Like, it stays relatively small, so I think that's great for small spaces. And then I have a lemon basil, which this was also from Burpee. It was originally in this bed. In fact, the tag is over there. So this is called the Everleaf lemon basil. And I transplanted it over here, and I feel like as soon as I did that, it had more room and it started to grow. So it does appreciate having a bit more room than I was giving it before. The next bed over has a sun patient, which these 2 sun patients are orchid blush. And those and my hydrangeas struggled the most with the 90-degree days that we had in June. So those are the 2 plants that I think would probably prefer a little bit more shade than what I can give them up here, but they're still alive, so I'm still keeping them in there. Then in this bed I have 3 zinnias. The one that's blooming here is the Giant Benary Wine. I used to grow a mix of Giant Benary, and then as I realized which colors I loved the most, I started just getting the specific seeds for those varieties. So I think those are really pretty. These get tall. So these were the ones that were in my center raised beds, but they can get taller than me. So I would recommend not growing them too high off the ground. This, I'm pretty sure, is the Giant Benary Coral. And then I have one of the Floret Precious Metals, which I don't know the color of that yet because that's a mix. So once it blooms, I'll know what color it is. And then tucked in the back is that big boy tomato that I'm going to try to grow as vertically as possible. The last 30-gallon grow bag has my largest, as of right now, tomato plant. It also has another sun patient, the boxwood basil, and this has dwarf marigolds that I also direct sowed, but I'm hoping they're still getting enough sun. They're kind of shaded by the tomato plant right now. But this is the unicorn red small fruited tomato. So that is what's growing in my little veggie patch over here. I also have my second raspberry bush. Again, this is on wheels, so it kind of just gets pushed around depending on where I need to work. But it has been nice because I did put plants here last year and I didn't have them on wheels and they were pretty large planters. And it made it very difficult to get to this bed. So now I can wheel that out of the way and do any work that I need in my center raised bed here. We'll head straight back now through this path. I do have 3 Proven Winners perennials that I don't know where they're gonna go yet, but I'm hoping to figure out a spot soon. So this one is the Cornus Sergeant Pepper. I don't think any of these are compact varieties. I'm pretty sure all of these get like 5 to 6 feet. So we'll figure out where these are going to go. This one is Hibiscus Paraplu Adorned. I'm really excited for this because I love hibiscus, but again, need a spot for it. But it does look like there's a little bud. And then this last one here, clean off that tag, is the Camellia Just Chill Red Tip. So these are just hanging out here for now. We will figure out what to do with them at a later date. The raised bed here in the corner has kind of turned into my green and purple raised bed. I think this is one of them where I had some like leftover flowers. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but in the corner again are Supertunias. These are the Supertunia Vista Jazzberry. I then have 4 zinnias, which are the green with envy zinnias. I got these from Botanical Interests, and I got them because I thought they would go really nicely with the Queen Lime series. There aren't any that are fully opened yet, but they are basically all that really pretty lime green color. I also have some Status. I'm pretty sure this is the Seeker Pastel Blue because I was going for those with more of the blue or purpley tones, but we'll see once that blooms. And then I also have in here a China Aster, and this is the Hazaster Blue China Aster, and it looks like it's getting really close to flowering. This is also earlier than normal. I also have some gladiolus in the back, and I think those are actually going to be pink blooms. I'm pretty sure. Those were from the Proven Winners bulb collection. Next to that bed, I have 2 dinner plate dahlias. These are both Penhill Watermelon. These were 2 that overwintered in my garage last year, and they are getting super tall super fast. I have buds forming on them, so hopefully we'll see some flowers soon. Coming down here in front of this raised bed, I do have 2 more dahlias. 1, 2. These also overwintered in the garage, but they're not growing nearly as fast as the Penhill Watermelon. They're both the same variety, but the variety is unknown, because when I got them, they were labeled as Lilac Thyme, and when they flowered, they were bright red. So I'm not 100% sure what variety they are, but this one is so much smaller too than even this one, so I don't know, we'll just kind of see how it goes. Luckily, I do have enough dahlias in my garden that if, like that one for example, doesn't make it, I'll still be okay. I have my 2 columnar apple trees, which will be planted up into larger pots either this fall or next season. This one has no flowers, so this one on the left bloomed first, this one on the right bloomed second, and there was like maybe like literally a day or 2 of overlapping blooms. So I did some hand pollination. The one that bloomed earlier on the left did not get any apples forming, and the one on the right, I have 3. So this one here was the Scarlet Sentinel, and then this one is called White Icicle. I got them in a pack from Park Seed last spring, so they came together as 2 columnar apple trees meant to cross-pollinate, because you do need 2 in order for them to produce apples. In the bed behind it, I have what has now become one of my favorite zinnias. This is the Mazurkia zinnia. And at first, I didn't think I would like it that much because I thought it was more of red and white, and it kind of reminded me of a candy cane, but it is hot pink and light pink, and I love pink. So this is now a must-have each year in my garden. I have 3 in here, only the middle one is flowering right now. Then I have 2 champagne hollyhocks on either side of those. Then I have my other sunflowers. So these are the same variety as the one I showed you that is flowering. The difference is those were volunteers. So the seeds dropped last fall. We had a really warm spring, really warm summer so far. So that's why that one's so far ahead. These I direct sowed in May. So that is why they're only a couple feet tall. But those should grow up about 6 feet. And then I also use those once they're done blooming as trellises for my peas. I did stick some more plants in the back. So I have some purple statice there, another China aster, I'm pretty sure that's the king apricot, and then another purple statice there in the back. Still in a nursery container as well, I have a dwarf peach tree. This is the Honey Baby miniature peach. It, as far as I'm aware, does not need another one to cross-pollinate. Hoping I can plant this up soon. And then I also have here a fig, and since I'm in Chicago, I needed to get the Chicago hardy fig. That is also still hanging out in its nursery pot. So I will be potting those up hopefully in like the next month or 2. This last raised bed was my kind of just throwing all of my extras together raised bed that I think still turned out pretty good. So on the corners, again, are Supertunia Vista, but this is Supertunia Vista Fuchsia. So this is fuchsia, this is bubblegum, and that's jazzberry. And I also have in here some parsley. So I did tuck parsley into other beds for the caterpillars. Now, I understand the circle of life exists for a reason, but I keep seeing, so only a couple caterpillars have gotten to full size. I've had not the best luck at predators not finding them. I saw a bunch of small ones yesterday and now it looks like they're gone. So I think some birds or maybe wasps are getting to them. I'm trying not to think about it too much. But also in here then I have a collection of orange, purple, and peach zinnias. So I have my Cinderella zinnias in here. This is Cinderella Lilac. This is Cinderella Orange. And this is Cinderella Peach. I also have in here a Queen Lime Blush, but it is just starting to open up, but it's the same one that's in my center bed. I have a decorative dahlia in the center, and then I have the king apricot asters in the back. So none of those 3 plants in the back, the 2 asters and then the dahlia, have bloomed yet, but there are flower buds, so hopefully soon. And that takes us to the end of my loop of the front deck and everything that is currently growing in it. So let's do another little sweep here of the garden. So that is what my garden is looking like early July this year. I will link down below the past month's garden tours. I'll also link down the playlist for previous years, just in case you're interested to see what my garden looked like in the past. I keep adding more to it each year. And the next video I will take you around my back deck. So I will see you then.